we all right to start early since everyone's here?
If you'd like to.
I call this meeting to order at 5:59 p.m. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, shall we move on to the roll call? Commissioner Hall?
I'm here.
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Graff? Here. Commissioner Riles?
Present.
Commissioner Robinson?
Present.
Commissioner Jansen?
Present. Well, he's online.
Oh, he's on. Perfect, thank you. And would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 4th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Now moving along to the business from the public. Persons wanting to provide comment may email written comments to cdaa@cityofalbany.net, putting name before noon on the day of the meeting. And virtually during the meeting, register by emailing cdaa@cityofalbany.net before noon day of the meeting with your name. The chair will call upon those who have registered to speak. And you may also appear in person at the meeting and register. Do we have any business from the public? Joel Orton.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm calling in to see if I can get the camera on. As representative of Friends of Historic Albany, our last meeting, we were talking about events for Preservation Month, and we're just curious as to whether Landmarks Commission may want to partner with us on an event. Looking at one of two different topics, we want to have an educational session, and one of the ideas is to talk about historic districts, how they came about and why they're important. Another possibility would be to talk about disaster preparedness and historic structures, and thinking in particular earthquakes, what homeowners can do to guard against, disasters from earthquakes, that kind of thing. So a couple of topics that we've got in mind. We're working now to identify possible presenters, which might help us narrow down the topics. But just wanted to pose that to the Landmarks Commission to see if you might be interested in doing something in May for Preservation Month.
Thank you, Joel. Do we want to discuss that at this time, or should we put that on a later agenda?
We had a meeting with the people over in Corvallis. You were there in person. I love that.
Rain and Alyssa.
Yeah, so we've already been going through all that stuff with them and trying to figure out what we're going to do. And they've got an agenda, don't they?
They do. So I definitely want to talk about that meeting. There was a tremendous number of good ideas from the Benton County and Corvallis Historic Resource Commissions and their living history. And I think I'm still leaving out some groups. So I definitely want to talk about that. And I am definitely for doing something this year. And if we could participate with FOHA, that would be great. An educational part of it would be good. I've got some ideas about when and where we might be able to do that. So I don't know if we want to, I figure we'll talk about that from business from the commission, but if Joel, you can hang out, or do we need to talk about it now?
I'll just stick around and I'll listen in and just wanted to toss that out there for your consideration.
Thanks so much, Joel.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else signed up from the public?
Yeah, is it okay if I say something? I didn't sign up first. Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that the Albany Visitors Association photo contest is coming to an end here 5 p.m. Friday, February 10th. And if anyone is interested in signing up for that and getting some stuff, that's where we get all of the photos we use for our promotional material. So it's very important to us. So go to albanyvisitors.com and get your photos in there. Bill, I know you're going to do that, right? Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
Kim, could we have your address for the record?
Kim Jackson, 630 7th Avenue Southwest, Albany.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Lisa Rado, Albany Downtown Association, 126 Ferry Street Southwest. I was going to have a photo contest. Kim took care of that. But we also have First Friday at Historic Downtown Albany. It will be a chocolate walk this month. First Friday at the Carousel and other businesses. And the Big Show of Little Art is kind of fun. That is where a community art opportunity is. So those are 8x8 pieces of artwork, and there'll be a reception on February 3rd, which is Friday, and they're on display through the 26th. And other than that, Albany Taps and Caps is a fundraiser that we partner with Furniture Share, so that's getting kids' beds and off the floor. We got 4 stops, 4 hours, and the tap houses are California Brewing, Deluxe, the Garage, and No Rails. So support getting kids and families furniture they need. If you don't know what a furniture share is, it's much like a food share. You donate it and they get it back out to the people in need. So that's what's going on in downtown. Other than that, the asbestos abatement has started at the Wells Fargo as of today. So we have a notification out that that should take a couple of weeks, and maybe around the 15th, or depending on how that goes, they'll start with the fencing going up and the demolition beginning, which should take maybe 5 weeks.
Good information. Thank you.
You have the flyers this time?
The newsletter?
Yeah.
No. I will get it next week. I'll drop it at your house, Jeff.
Thank you.
Working on revitalization.
Moving on, business from the staff.
No real business at this time. I did attend the meeting with Benton County, but we're scheduled to talk about that with business from the commission. There is a grant that's been awarded to the Albany Downtown Association to do more research for the little QR codes that they have for the Oregon Explorer app that they have. So that's been awarded and runs through June, I believe. So they're working on that.
And secondly, we do have more business from the staff. We have the conversation with our city attorney, Sean Kidd, who's present tonight.
Good evening. So Blaine staff asked me to come and speak tonight for a few minutes, maybe answer some questions you guys have come up with in the past few meetings. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sean Kidd, I'm the city attorney here in Albany. Is there any new people on the commission, Landmarks Commission, starting this year?
Dave is at home, but he is tuned in remotely.
Okay, and so is everybody, or I would say by show of hands, how many people have been to one of the citizen advisory group trainings that the city puts on? Okay, so a couple that happened, and Dave at home hasn't. The good news is that we have another one coming up on February the 28th. And I believe that starts at 4 o'clock, it may start at 3 o'clock. end of that meeting, there'll be probably about an hour-long land use, kind of comprehensive land use portion of that that would be applicable to the Landmarks Commission as well as Planning Commission and City Council. So if you're able to attend that, either in person or virtually, I encourage you to do that. This isn't that tonight. I'm not going to go in depth about the differences between legislative and quasi-judicial hearings and talk about bias and all that stuff. But I heard there was some questions that could come up at some meetings, so I was going to come and answer those. I think one of the questions that David asked me was that a couple of the members of the commission had asked whether or not that there could be an applicant come in, meet with one or more members of the commission before the actual Landmarks Commission meeting, so that they can kind of give them an idea of what they're looking for. And unfortunately, that can't do that. There's several reasons why that wouldn't work. Number one, most of your hearings in that capacity are what are considered quasi-judicial hearings. And ex parte communication, which that would be, is discouraged at that time. If you have ex parte communication in a quasi-judicial hearing, then you're required at the actual hearing to disclose the content of that conversation. And not just, well, I had a talk with Mr. Smith the other day about this project. You have to actually disclose what you said to Mr. Smith and what Mr. Smith said to you, because that gives people in the audience or somebody in favor or opposition of a particular application the opportunity to rebut that, if that's part of the evidence that you're using in consideration of the decision you're going to make. So ex parte communication will be discouraged in those situations, and that would be that. The other situation is that if you had more than a quorum, so you had 4 people or more that met with this person, now you're having a public meeting, this public meeting that is not in public, which is a violation of the Oregon Public Meetings laws. And we'll talk about this in the training, but you are considered a public official, so you are subject to the public meetings laws. So you would be able to have a meeting outside of that, and that would also be deliberating towards a decision. So, for example, he said, hey, if you come in, I have no idea what the topic could be, but if you come in and you use wood windows instead of vinyl windows, we'll approve this application. But if you come in with a vinyl, we're not going to do it. You're already deliberating or making a decision outside of a public meeting, so we can't do that. The last reason is that the term that people use for this is contract zoning. You want to avoid contract zoning. And so, for example, you could say to an applicant, well, if you come back and do X, we'll give you a thumbs up. And we'll recommend either we'll approve or we'll recommend approval to the council. And this board turns over, and it happens a lot. We have members come and go. And the new members say, well, we're not going to do that. Even though the applicant said, well, we might say, well, hold on a second. You told me if I do X that I'm going to get approved. I just spent $20,000. And now you're telling me no, so I'm going to file a lawsuit against the city because you told me something that now you're not holding up. That wouldn't hold up in court. They would lose. The city would lose that argument. But that's because of contracts that be prohibited in Oregon in most states. But it would be a costly lesson for the applicant, and it would be create bad will on commission. But then again, there doesn't seem that with one new person on the commission, most of the time these commissioners will finish their terms out. They'll be appointed and they'll complete a term. Sometimes they'll get appointed, but sometimes there is a turnover. Some of you might have been part of that last year. When the mayor was, well, that was 2 years ago. Gosh, it was 2 years ago. When Mayor Johnson was elected, he decided to change some appointments for people. And I don't know if you guys watched the city council meetings on TV. We actually had to have a Monday night where we had a person on, I think it was the safety commission, that a new council member was elected and decided to remove that person from the safety commission and appoint their own person, the person didn't do anything wrong, they just prefer to have their own person on it, so that's what they do. So that can happen, so the boards can change over, especially at the end of the year after an election year. So contract zoning could be an issue there, but for the other two reasons too, being ex parte communication and public meetings law violations, it's not a good idea. But one thing you could do is have meetings with your staff and tell them, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want to see, so that they can convey that information to the applicants ahead of time. It's not ex parte communication, it's not a public meetings violation. If the staff tells an applicant, look, the Landmarks Commission wants this, this is what they like to see, or this is what they don't want to see. So if you come in with that, chances are you might get a negative feedback on that. So that's something that you could have happen, so, or could do. Okay.
So if they come to a meeting and ask to business from the public and ask what we would like to see in this situation, what's that? How?
So if a potential applicant comes in and says that they want from the public and ask you in a public meeting, the downside to that, I mean, they could do it and you could give them some feedback. The downside of that, that's not part of the record, and it's actually bad for them because it's not gonna be part of the record. This is from the public. For one meeting will not be part of a record that gets appealed to city council or if it gets appealed to LUMA for another meeting. And so that wouldn't be part of the actual hearing at that point. With the council, what I advise, and most of the time it happens, sometimes it doesn't, is to not have a lot of back and forth on this from the public, because we have a 3-minute time limit, first of all. Second of all, we don't want to have a hearing within a meeting that wasn't scheduled. And so but it is something, and we did it tonight, it was good, so we'll bring that back when we have this from the council later on, instead of having the back and forth before, because we got this from the public at the beginning of our city council meetings. But it is possible that somebody could do that, and I mean, as long as they're not, hey, I've got a bunch of stuff here, I want to show you, which one do you want, that, it wouldn't be, wouldn't hurt, so.
So if they come and they try to get, the latest one was solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
So if we approve with conditions of moving things, is that wrong?
If you were in an actual
In
hearing,
a quasi judicial,
and you approve of conditions,
with condition of moving, not having certain ones showing.
no, that's in the public,
okay.
that's the public, you're in the public.
So we're
meeting,
not
and,
telling them how to do it, we're just saying, if you do this, then you can.
You're approving with conditions, and then the staff will write a report at that way. They'll write the report is approved with these following conditions, and they can accept those conditions, or they can say, well, gosh, we don't want to do those conditions, we're going to appeal to the city council. So,
We're actually talking about having somebody come to us before they come to a hearing and asking us what they want to see.
We had that with.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that was, they came in with the idea that they were informing us what they were doing.
And wanted some feedback.
And they were put in a request, but they'd already done the work, so it made no sense to come to the commission after it was already done.
they want you to give them the green light for something that's already done, come in ahead of time, yeah. I don't know who the applicant was or who the person was, but
yeah,
I've seen that before, so. They're asking kind of an early forgiveness, so.
That's the one.
No, I was talking about the church and someone said, hey, we want to do these things, we want to fix this up. What would you guys like to see?
Oh.
I didn't know.
And if it's something in the context of a general statement, then I don't see a problem with that. So if someone comes in and says, well, look, we're thinking about a boutique hotel downtown. I'm thinking about building this boutique hotel downtown. Just curious, what are your thoughts on that? Okay, and that happens in council sometimes. What is there a head nod? They're not making a vote, they're not deliberating. It's kind of, you want to see something like this come back? Yeah, bring it back. Bring back that application. We'd like to see that. But you're not getting into the details of, well, make sure that it has this, doesn't have that on it. So, and they can get that. I mean, first of all, your code has a lot of that in there. A lot of that
So the first one is, not much of a problem typically, but I noticed that, we were worried about having quorum when we joined the courthouse and county meeting. I noticed that courthouse, when they, write up their agenda sometimes, they'll put a note for some of the non-regular meetings. There is a possibility of a quorum in there. Does that indemnify them from having?
No, well, if they say there's a possible forum in their agenda, well, they would always be, I mean, they would always want to have a forum.
Well, this was something they sent out
So
in relation to the Benton County meeting.
was it something that they were gonna actually be talking about, discussing in the meeting, or is it just that they may have people there?
They didn't have people.
Okay, so they do that for, it basically is protection, as long as there's no public, no business being discussed, and we do that in Albany too. So for example, the council, I think they do, when they do the Veterans Day parade, as an example, all the council members get on the trolley or the truck, whatever it is, they get on it and they ride on that. But we put that out, that said that the council will be attending this and they'll be there, but no business will be discussed during that get together. So just to let people know that there's no meeting. You can, it doesn't violate public meetings laws if everybody gets together and doesn't discuss this official business. So if you're in a party and you have a quorum of people, the party, you don't have to leave because of that. But if you start talking about, well, what do you think about that other night? And then the other person's coming, and the next thing you know, you got four of you talking about it, then you're getting into the murky water. So
If we had 4 or 5.
Three.
Well, I was there, you and Dave was there, wasn't he, Smith?
No.
Three
Oh,
was
okay.
there. There was the three of us in person and you were on.
So that's
4 is a quorum.
But she's
4, so we
out.
only got 3. So if we had a quorum outside of our area, does that constitute a public meeting?
no, you have to have a quorum in order to be constitute a public meeting. But it still shouldn't be, if you can help it, talking about public business and deliberating towards, because you can have serial meetings. And what that means is, say you have 2 of you talking, and then you say, well, okay, you two were talking. You say, well, okay, we're good on this. We'll go talk to Jolene and see what Jolene thinks. And you say, well, I'll go talk to Jolene. And then she says, well, I'll go talk to Oscar. And then you basically now are having smaller meetings to create one meeting to get a quorum, or basically kind of start deliberating towards a decision. One of the easiest way to do that is hit the reply all button on email. So a lot of times, and I don't know if this commission uses the email a lot back and forth with each other, but the city council will, and sometimes I even had to talk to Peter about this, and be like, don't do that. But he'll send out something to the council, say, hey, council, this is just for your information. Well, then somebody replies back, well, I think this is a bad idea, and then somebody else says, well, no, I think because, and then next thing you know, they're all firing emails off. Well, they're having a meeting, they're just sitting at their desks typing it, but it's still a meeting. So we have to be careful with those kind of things. And actually, there's been court cases about that in the city of Eugene. There was a lawsuit filed about it, or Springfield, actually, a few years ago. So you have to try to avoid those if you can.
So we're safe if we all go to the arbiter or we come in and clean up.
Yep, 100%.
My second question was, and you're probably gonna hear this go, no, but I can't remember the reason we can't do this. We have often run into trouble in a public hearing, a quasi-judicial hearing, where we take all the testimony, close the public hearing, deliberate, and then almost immediately find out that we're missing information, or there's a disagreement about what we heard. I think they said this, no, they said that, they're sitting right there. Can we have our deliberation before we close the public hearing, or is that?
No, you should always close the public hearing and then deliberate. But if something like that happens and you're still here and you say, wait, I heard this, no, I heard that. You can have your chair open the public hearing back up and then bring them back and say, well, we want to open the public hearing back up and ask Ms. Smith or Mr. Smith or whoever what it was and clarify what their testimony was, and then you can close it again. So as long as they're here, you can open the meeting. The problem comes up sometimes, and those situations are easy to cure. The problem sometimes comes up when we start a deliberation and then they want to take in some other evidence, but they don't open the hearing again, and those people aren't here. And then they're like, well, what are we gonna do? So, but in that case, you have to open the hearing back up again. So the reason you open the hearing again is because that gives, if that person comes back up and says, hey, I'm just making stuff out here, but you know, the reason we can't build down there is because there's an endangered species. There's a bald eagle nest in that tree up there, and that's why. And then you say, well, we'll close the hearing and deliberate. You want to let people rebut that because somebody else might come up and say, hold on a second, I study birds and that's those are buzzards, and I can prove it. So, you know, as long as you have an opportunity to rebut whatever it is.
I remember when you brought up the bald eagle example a couple of years ago, and I stole that from you in order to explain to people why I can't discuss this with you.
Right. And stuff, I mean, even the rule is, even stuff, when we're talking about ex parte communication, even stuff you read in a book or a news, or if you watch the news and say, well, gosh, that's going on, I didn't know about that, and you don't disclose that in the meeting, but you were using it in your mind to make a decision. You're like, well, because of this, I'm gonna do whatever. I mean, and sometimes people, even council members, sometimes will start testifying after a meeting's closed. They don't realize, they think they're deliberating, but they're really not deliberating. So I use North Albany as the example, but when they ever want to build anything in North Albany, you know, like I said, traffic's really bad. So we'll have a hearing, we'll close the hearing, and then we start deliberating, and the council member will say, well, the traffic's just ridiculous. So the other day, I was trying to get across the bridge, and it took me an hour and a half to get over the bridge. The traffic was back up, you know, 6 miles down 20. Oh, wow, you know, whatever, but they're testifying that somebody could easily say, well, hold on a second, you didn't see this in the paper, but there was a jackknife truck on 34, and they had to route the traffic that way, or the bridge was shut down for some reason, so they can rebut that testimony. So,
Thank you.
okay. Fire away. Or it's the end of the day. So yeah.
I think you nailed it. So is the meeting going to be in here?
On the 28th, I believe it is.
Okay.
It's an introduction for new members of the advisory commission or advisory groups. But in the end of it, we're doing it this way. Instead of having a separate meeting later, I'm going to do a 45 minutes to an hour land use kind of refresher for people who've done it before, and, you know, intro to people who haven't. And we've got some new council members that haven't been through it before. Although I will say now that the league organization has started doing training, which has been really good and helpful, because they could go to those before we get to them. So
It'll be a Zoom also, right?
I believe there'll be a Zoom option to that.
Okay.
Matt, so all I asked him, he's going on with that. I believe it will have a Zoom option for it. So, and
Also be recorded too.
Okay.
Do you know what time?
I believe 4 or 5. Yeah, it's either starts at 3 or 4.
I just need to get in my calendar.
Yeah, I want to say, I think actually better. I think it's 3, because I was looking at what time I was going to do my thing. I think I was going to go 4 to 5 on the land use part of it. So the first part is an hour long, and it's just introduction from city manager, introduction from city clerk, and talking about their roles as public officials and things like that. So you guys are.
I'll check my email for you guys, and if I've got something, I'll forward it to the group.
Yeah, Mary Dipples minutes, but all right. Okay, well, appreciate the opportunity to come in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
business from the commission. We're going to start with the election of 2023 chair and vice chair position. Let's open nominations. Are there any nominations for the position of chair?
I would like to renominate Jolene for chair.
Second? You want it?
I think I'm going to decline the nomination. I've noticed that my attendance has been off and I don't see that improving, though. I do thank you, Bill, for the vote of confidence, but I'm going to decline it this time.
Can we decline your decline?
Okay, I'll nominate the vice chair, Jim Jansen.
Second.
I'd second that.
Does the member accept the nomination?
Clarification, you said vice chair.
I
As
would-
chair?
The current vice chair,
Vice chair. As chair.
yes.
So
Are there any more nominations for chair? All right, the nominations are now closed. Since there was only one nomination for the position of chair, we will now vote to elect member Jim Jansen as the 2023 chair. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed say no. Member Jim Jansen has been elected chair. Congratulations. Would you like to take over the meeting at this time?
No, you get finished.
All right, we will now move on to the election of vice chair.
How about Jolene Thompson for vice chair?
I will accept that nomination.
I'll second.
Second,
All right, all those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed say no. Not really sure how to phrase this, so I guess I'm vice chair and you can find a way to wordsmith that better in the minutes perhaps.
So we'll swap.
Yes, sounds great. All right. It's not contested, so I think we just get to move on down the agenda, correct? Okay. Preservation Month Award discussion. Some of you were at the combined meeting between other historic preservation boards and organizations. I don't know if any of you wanted to speak to that at all.
Is that an award discussion for this coming month, or was it last month?
Oh, I
Because
think
it's an award,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's the awards and the month in general, but at least that's how I like to discuss it.
That was my perception.
So it's for actually 2023 Preservation Month,
Yes.
May.
Yeah, and we can definitely start with the awards. We have, once the pandemic hit, obviously we kicked the can down the road. We had some awards, but we were waiting for an in-person meeting. This is my recollection. We waited for an in-person meeting, present the awards, it never came. It either happened without an in-person presentation or it happened at city council meeting and then we never get back on. So we should get after it. And I think the first thing to me is we should decide what categories are we nominating for.
What have we done in the past?
Well, that's a great question. It's been so long, I don't remember exactly.
Depends on how far in the past you're talking. Sure, we haven't done anything for a while.
I've never been part of that award.
So we used to do awards for residential, commercial, and then oftentimes a painting award or a general, somebody who in the community has been what is the word I want? Has been a proponent of historic preservation in one way or another.
I'm sure you received it.
Say what?
Have you received it?
I received it as a homeowner,
Okay.
and then I received it when we remodeled the original Natty Dresser location.
Okay. And how did that happen? Was it at an awards during the month? Was there a special date?
So-
line?
Typically, in the past, and I don't know what has happened since I was not on for a while, but in the past, we used to present those awards at the May council meeting.
Okay.
But the decision was made here with us, right?
Correct. And then just little certificates will be handed out. Typically, the mayor would make a historic preservation month proclamation, and then awards would be handed out, pictures of the mayor shaking hands, etc.
So should we do, I feel like we should just hammer out categories in this meeting. We don't do nominations. So residential, commercial, and an advocate. Does that seem?
Yeah, a historic preservation all-star, if you will. Yeah.
Sure.
Like that. Yeah, I think that's great. Do we want to discuss some projects or locations? Oh, go ahead, Bill, sorry.
Turn your mic on.
Bill, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So I have three ideas. The first one, actually, Oscar mentioned and it's, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, since Oscar's on our board, but for the restoration of the Charles Burgraff building at 2nd and Broad Album, which is the new Natty Dresser. I think if we haven't, I don't think, so, we went through this 2 years of the pandemic, when 1 year, I don't think we gave out anything. So my memory's a little foggy from that period of time. But I think the new Natty Dresser restoration, I don't know, what is the actual name of that building, Oscar?
The S.E. Young and Son Department Store.
No wonder I couldn't remember it. It's not, that's a rule. But I think that building, and, Oscar went out on a limb and bought that building and has done an amazing job of restoring it and bringing it back into the fold. And so I would like to see that be nominated. I also think the moving of the Cumberland Church, lifting the building up lock, stock, and barrel and moving it across the tracks and relocating it in its new location and repurposing it as a community center is an amazing thing. And I think that we may have made some recognition, but I don't think we gave them an actual award so far on that project. So now might be a time to recognize them. And the third one, so the third one is to recognize, it's something we've done in the past, to recognize individuals for sort of a long term of service in behalf of the historic districts. And the person that comes to mind right now is Dick Olson, who is no longer counselor, but he goes back to mayor, and he helped start the original historic districts and has been a firebrand at times and an advocate for our historic districts, in particular Central School, but for the whole historic district, his entire retired life. And he's now into his 90s, I think. And so I think we might consider recognizing him for a legacy or a lifetime of service to the districts.
I think that's great.
I have a question about Cumberland. Now, it's not in a historic district, as I understand. So does that still qualify it for receiving this award?
Yes, absolutely.
Of Albany, and it is still a historic contributing property as well.
Okay, thank you. And I have to admit that I'd have to recuse myself on that because I was involved in that relocation. So.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to recuse yourself on that. There's no money, there's no money passing hands here. It's just.
Oh, I thought there was a big award.
Yeah.
Joe will be disappointed.
Yes, he will, I'm sure. I think a lot of us have had a hand in that at one time or another. And I think I think it really, our recognition can just sort of lend the spotlight on them and help keep their momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I think that momentum is probably something crucial at this point.
Does anyone have any residential suggestions? None are coming to the top of my mind.
Nothing's coming to my mind.
You know, the one house that I really like that they came to Landmarks to get the garage done. The work that they put in to restore the one on Washington across from White's Tires. Or down farther. That one is amazing how much work they put into that house and actually got it to the state that it is.
Yes. My only two caveats is I think have recognized them at least a couple times in the past. Not that Kirkland's usually recognized again. The project stands on its own merit, but also it's not done. Yeah. So,
So, as far as nominating somebody for something, since we've been in pandemic for 2 years, like, could it be 3 years ago that they did something and restored a home to its original? The one on 4th, right across from the water tower, they did a fantastic job of renovating that from.
Excellent.
Yes.
The one with the squatters in it.
Yes.
Yes.
I represented them selling that, so I wouldn't want to, I don't know, nominate them, but.
it's not about
Okay,
very much
I mean,
something like that.
they
Yeah,
just did a fantastic job of it and brought it really back to original. Sure.
you don't have
I
to
mean,
really
really,
have
there is no limit on how many awards we can give.
Sure.
Yeah.
The more recognition, the better, I think.
Yeah, but that's just it just made the whole neighborhood just so happy.
Yeah.
Everybody was so
Oh,
happy.
kidding.
Do you know what the cross street was on that?
4th and Maple.
April, yeah.
Is it 732?
Yes.
Okay.
And the one that,
Right behind it on the alley, they did a really pretty job too.
and Jody's house.
Sinners.
That the one, no, Jody, the big white house on the canal.
The Sinners did that.
Oh, okay.
What did
They did a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Even Jim Hoffman on the corner of California and Fifth, he took all that stuff and replaced all the ornate stuff on the front. He sells rhododendrons out front.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's done a lot of work on that house, had it repainted, re-roofed, and all the ornate stuff put back up at
California and Fifth.
Fifth in California.
Yeah, the scroll work just looks amazing.
Yeah, it was in bad shape.
Yeah.
Looks like 432 Calabria.
I'm sorry?
432 Calabria.
It could be. Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, it's kind of like a beige-ish, tannish, and then like a mustard green accent. Goldenrod maybe.
There were a couple, I don't know that they're all stars, but industry people that I thought were possible to recognize. One would be Piper and Sons. First and second, yeah, progress. It does very good work, and also got rolled in with that Arizona has been a part of some of these projects and does excellent applications. They've really done homework, provide a lot of information to us, which is very helpful. So a couple names, couple entities that love us.
They're still working on the Opera House too,
Yeah,
which I wish would get done.
That's the one right on First.
It's right next to the
I'm going right.
the porno shop.
The Florida Oregon.
yeah, then another one that is, has a big portfolio of quality work that respects the districts and the original buildings. And I can't think of what her title is, but Candace Rivera that works for Scott does a tremendous amount of work researching and focusing on these projects to really go the extra mile on these buildings.
Did the commission give an award to the DK carpet?
I don't think, yeah, that was a project that happened.
I thought we did.
Oh, you,
Across from First, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they replaced all the windows at the left.
New awnings would be,
Yeah.
and
did apartments upstairs.
the apartments, which, you know, that's not necessarily something we see when we drive by, but when we're walking around downtown, you're putting people back into downtown, we're contributing to vibrancy of downtown.
Can I make a suggestion? Would we like to make a list of everybody you want to nominate, and then for at least the structures, I can go through, take some photos and bring them back for you guys.
That'd be great.
And then in terms of people you're nominating, I can potentially take pictures of the work they've done.
What pictures of that?
I mean, I'm not sure it would help you deliberate. If that would be helpful to you.
I think that'd be great. Vote next meeting.
So we need to make a decision earlier than we did last time as to who we're doing, instead of after the fact.
I'd recommend the sooner the better, that way we're just positioned well, but it's up to you guys when you want to vote.
So can we just send you offline ideas of nominations, and then we can bring it back next month?
Yeah, I think that would work. So far, I have the new Natty Dresser, I've got the Cumberland Church, I've got Dick Olson. I have 732 Southwest 4th, which is the one you brought up. 313 Washington is the one across from the funeral home. That's the work in progress with the garage. 432 Calapooya, which is the one that sells the rhododendrons. And then for people, I've got Kyburn and Sons, Letman, and then Canvas. Is there anybody else I should add to the list?
Veritum.
Veritum, thank you.
I do have a question there. Is there a criteria for, nomination or selection? We seem to be, these are all pet projects, which I don't have any, but it does seem like, oh, I drove by there, that looks really nice. Is that sufficient criteria for nomination and selection?
Yes, it certainly has been over the years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's more than that, though. I mean, obviously, everything that's being nominated meets the criteria for what we expect to be fixed, how a repair or renovation should be done within the historic district, that it follows Albany Development Code, and other, I'm trying to find a more succinct way to say this. We want to recognize projects that aren't only just beautiful, but also meet the criteria for historic preservation. So that makes sense.
Would that include having an application before this committee or commission for approval, or can it be outside the commission? I imagine, for instance, Cumberland, I'm sure was outside the commission.
Yeah,
You mean outside the district?
Well, that and it never came to the fore of this commission because it's outside the district. So, and presumably what I've heard is that that's fine. We can consider that then.
Yeah, I agree with what Jolene said. Yeah.
I'd also just add that things like routine maintenance and painting of houses don't necessarily need to go to the commission, but that routine maintenance can make a big difference. So I don't think that everything that you nominate would need an application, just because we don't make everybody go through it.
Exactly. Painting, roofing, foundations, things like that, that can be huge difference to save a building. And also, there are buildings that are on the local inventory that are not necessarily in the district that need to be saved as well.
I recall in previous meetings, we talked about, I guess, a grant process where there was some monetary, funds involved that would be, given out. But this is non-monetary in its entirety. It's just a recognition then. Okay.
No money, just good vibes.
And it's a thank you to them.
Yeah, and just an acknowledgement.
Yeah, I think that's good. So I'm just gonna check the calendar.
March 1st is the.
Yeah, March 1st is our next.
Okay, so let's do the 20th of February for nominations. That way I have some time to go out and take pictures and make you guys a nice little presentation
For the next meeting?
for the next meeting.
Wow.
So, moving on to the rest of May, maybe, can we talk about that? So in addition to getting back to these awards, the commission has in the past, and I think should, engage the community some more. Here, Rennie, Melissa, we went to a meeting in Corvallis, with the Benton County and Corvallis Historic Resource Commissions and the Data Living History Group. I think it's Living History Incorporated, am I leaving anyone out? As far as
There were a bunch of different organizations represented. They gathered stakeholders like historic schools and things like that.
it was very impressive, the number of people that were there, the broad range of ideas and the level of engagement that they had. They reached out to us wanting to know if we would like to collaborate. I just sort of wrote some things down that they mentioned. There was some talk of, do we want to partner with them to host a speaker to talk about a regional or Albany historic issue or maybe an educational aspect. There was some talk about a range tour in which the opening range and at least one very little alignment range, which is a route one out of Greenberry, might be available for viewing on the same day or the same weekend or weekends adjacent to each other. There was talk about, we mentioned the group that came to talk to us about the Albany Airport, and there's some interest in the history of the Corvallis Airport. So there was some talk about that. There's also the Thornton Orchard is what they call it. I don't know. I think there's a park name for it, maybe. But by Thornton Lake, next to another Sigma restored house, there is an orchard that has recently been discovered to have some rare apple trees and some apple trees that were thought to have been completely extinct.
there is a group that has contacted horticulturists at OSU. There are student volunteers looking at that, trying to catalog it, and figure out more about those trees.
That's through the Parks Department. They found all that stuff. When I was on the tree commission, they brought all that in.
They wanted to know if we would like to have some sort of event where we could go bring awareness to the community about that. Those were some of the collaboration ideas. There were some themes that they brought up that could work well with us. There's trails, things like San Ann Wagon Road, that sort of thing. Historic natural areas. We sometimes get fixated on structures. And before the Anglo settlers, there was the indigenous peoples that don't really have many surviving structures, but there are natural areas that could help tell their story. Celebrating municipal buildings. We have a courthouse too, just like they do. They have a lot of interest in their courthouse. We have courthouse, we have schools, we have these aircraft buildings. The canal is very interesting in and of itself. Kind of right through the middle of town, and I don't think there's a lot of people who understand function or history or any of that. The water plant that the canal goes through is very interesting, large municipal historic building. So there's things there that maybe we could explore. As far as what we could do in May, walking or driving tours, a booth at the Albany Farmers Market, I think would sort of be maybe at a minimum if we could partner with Law on that. I don't know if that's what they were thinking, but if we could work with them to have something there, that would be great. The person who zoomed in to talk about lost me there. Yeah. Anyway, their living history. They have a tremendous amount of camp at their paraphernalia, more than they can almost house building. And I was thinking about the fact that we have a lot of structures in Albany and in our historic districts that were moved here across the river from Camp Adair. That's a fascinating thing, just on its own. There's a lot of buildings pockmarked around small and large that can't Camp Adair. And another thing, I'm sorry, I keep rambling on. I have a lot of notes, there was more on here. They talked about contacting the Oregon Historical Society and finding items in Portland that came from Corvallis. And I wonder, is there anything that they have that might be something that we want to show off at the farmers market or at an event?
The airplane hangar or.
Yeah, maybe there's something to do with the hangar, who knows? So that's something we could look at. And again, I know I'm going on and on, but something that's stuck in my head is they have brought in a lot of different community groups. They're not taking it all on the backs of the Resource Commission. They're bringing in all kinds of stakeholders, and they're really engaging people. And they're doing it in some interesting ways. There's a ghost tour game that I don't think I totally understand, but people can play this game online and at historic sites in Corvallis. And as they go, they look on their phone and can see stories told of people and places in Corvallis. I thought, man, what a great idea. What a good way to trick people into getting interested in our history. So there was a lot going on. I'm really hoping that we can sort of engage with them, or at least start doing some things on our own.
When was the next meeting supposed to be?
Do we
Can
know?
you hear?
They said mid-March.
Because we haven't seen anything in the emails or anything yet.
I saw some stuff in my inbox. I wasn't in the office today, so I haven't had a chance to look them over, but it looks like they just sent out the contact list if we want to start reaching out to people separately.
You also talked about Chris Gustafson doing a
Yes.
seminar.
Yeah.
Old windows.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, so we have our CLG money, so we can afford to pay for somebody to do a window restoration workshop. So I thought that would be something that we would be interested in doing since we see so many windows come through.
We did do one with Chris Gustafson before and it was well attended, so I think it would be worthwhile to consider doing it again.
3 years ago.
More like 5.
Okay.
Don't forget, 2 years is like erase.
Yeah.
You know, just to talk about one thing they're doing, they were formulating the idea of having a loop in southern, well, not southern Corvallis, but Benton County, basically. That was going to go to the Willamette Range, to a farm, actually 2 farms, a farmhouse that had been restored, a farmhouse that sounds like it's undergoing restoration, and they're talking about having a live window like there or shop, and moving that as a cycling market right into it was a
And
Go near or-
a couple of wineries as well.
winery.
All good stuff.
Do we want to get rolling on something? Do we want to try and engage? Or what do we want to do for on?
Because they're going to SHPO too, aren't they? Isn't that what they said?
I think they're going to the Oregon Historical Society, which is more a museum-based society, so they'll have exhibits and things, items that they can loan out.
I thought they were also talking to Curry and getting SHPO involved in some of this stuff.
They were talking about preservation works, and I think that may be an arm of SHPO. And then one thing I want to throw out there is if we're talking about getting museum pieces to bring down, they're most likely going to need to be inside a building so they don't get weather damage. So probably not the farmer's market, unfortunately.
No. And even the, like Campbell, there's a lot of stuff at the Albany Regional Museum for Campbell that they're giving to them when they're done. So.
Might be an option to kick around too, is that City Hall has like rotating exhibits in some of the first floor window areas there. I don't know what you call those exactly, but every month those things tend to change. So sometimes you'll see floodplain information there. You'll see Parks and Rec things, but every so often community development has the opportunity to make something of one of those spots for a month. Maybe that's another place to put some smaller pieces.
Yeah, did we get hold of that tonight? Or was it late?
I don't know, we could find that out.
Landmarks used to do that every year.
Oh, really? Okay.
So what would we want to put there?
Information about things that are coming up.
Yeah.
Small
Schedule.
artifacts, that kind of thing. Past, there have been displays of small architectural pieces and explaining what they are.
Or it's even like the windows from the old church, St. Mary's Church, that when it burned, they pulled the window sills out. That's at the museum, but I don't know if they even allow that to leave the building at this point.
Is it still in the basement or have they brought it
No,
up
it's upstairs.
Wouldn't fit with display case.
Small.
So I have a few highlights of all that rambling that I did that I got. Choose maybe one for May, either Burgraff Buildings, the Thornton Orchard, you gave them to see how much there is there, or the airports.
For the Grange?
Well,
Is that?
no, the airport, these are just my three. I'm open to anything, but the Burgraff Buildings, the Thornton Orchard, or the airport.
Which Burgraff building?
All of them.
There's a lot of.
Yeah.
Albany Downtown Association used to have a walking tour of the Burgraff buildings on their website. I don't know if they still do.
Bill has one.
Anyway, So that's.
That's easy to.
Something
Okay,
where people could see, the hangar. I think people would love to see the hangar.
I think that
I
would be
really
very
think
interesting.
And they had a theme that they were talking about wings and roots, and I thought that would go so well with the hangar. And then the whole buildings. So, what a good theme.
So for almost 20 years, I've been doing walking tours of First Avenue and Second Avenue. And I'm planning to do those again this year. Those will be May 9th and 10th at 6 o'clock. And then at Natty Dresser, we do Tweed Ride on 13th at a.m. And that is a bicycle tour of the historic districts, and we stop and talk about different places along the way. And then we're going to be offering a tour of our building on the 15th. That'll be at 3 o'clock. And then we also do the historic architecture scavenger hunt. We partner with the Downtown Association and the Visitors Association.
Oh, well, we're good then. Let's just take credit for what Oscar's doing.
Well, we definitely want to help do something.
Yeah, I think that the hangar very well attended.
Yeah.
Let's, see if I can go people to talk to us and see if we could have a weekend day when hangar will be open.
yep, I can give you their email addresses. There was also some talk about getting the lady from Adair in touch with them. Maybe to do some exhibits of their memorabilia, because they're low on room. They can't open up the buildings they're renovating right now. So there also could be something there as well. And then I believe the regional museum also has a bunch of Camp Adair stuff and stuff from the airport as well. Correct?
Yes.
So there might be something there too, if the airport handler wants to do exhibits.
Joel, are you still there? What do you think about all this?
He's there.
Yeah, I'm here. Wow, you guys have a lot of great ideas. Good luck narrowing it down. I think the airport hangar tour is a wonderful idea. I've been in there, and it's fantastic structure. And I know too that the group that's trying to orchestrate the museum in there has talked about maybe having some airplanes on display in conjunction with a tour. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So far, we like that one. That's good.
I just think that'll have a really broad appeal too. I think a lot of people will find that interesting.
So Joel, can I loop you in on the efforts with hangar?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd like to, stay in touch and communication with what you guys are planning, and, collaborate any way we can.
Was there interest in doing a booth at the farmer's market in conjunction?
During the month of May?
Correct, yeah.
I would help out at least one of the weekends. I would donate my time.
Yeah, I think 1 weekend should be sufficient.
Okay.
Maybe if we did the first weekend of May, also just to get the information out early, or maybe even at the end of April.
Yeah.
Okay, so next meeting, let's I'll report back any progress made on the hangar tour. We'll find out about whether we can get those shadow boxes or those displays. Okay.
Who does the program for us?
Oh, wonderful. Any other action items before we close that main down?
Just had kind of a weird idea that maybe we kind of fun to look into is maybe have a farmer's market session in the fall if any of those apple trees are still producing apples, it'd be pretty cool to have baskets of those for people to try.
So I did an apple thing at Cumberland years ago, the historic apples of the area, with the help of the owners of Horse Creek Farms that have very old orchards. Some of the apple trees, they don't know what they are. Anyway, and that also was very well attended. So I think that would be a really fun thing if we could source enough and have people available to make sure, you know, you can't just have people take whole apples, right? Because there won't be enough of the more unique specimens. But I think that that would be a real hit.
It is park, it's city park land, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
Just ask a person down the hall, in the Parks Department. Wade has been out there a lot.
Right, okay.
And Rick Barnett.
All right, well, are we ready to move along to discussion of solar panels? Yeah, it's, you know, solar panels are here, they are in our historic district plural. And I think you know, it's difficult because certainly one to help people make their houses more efficient, have alternative means of powering what they can, but also want to keep our neighborhoods looking historic and having that integrity. Anyway, I'll let you guys talk about it.
So the house on Kalapuya and 9, they have all theirs up and it looks fantastic and you can't even tell it's there unless you really know what you're looking for. So that was a good one. The one on Kalapuya that has the smaller one that we approved, theirs are up, but it's a little bit, you can tell what they are.
So is that the point of the solar panels, is not to know that they're solar panels?
The point is, you're not supposed to be able to see, originally, when I put mine on, you could not see the solar panels from the street anywhere. And things have changed because now the federal government's giving you money to put them up and the state's giving you money and everybody wants you to switch to do this stuff. But where do you limit who gets the opportunity to do it?
So I think I printed out a bunch of stuff. I tried to go hold of Chicago. They forwarded me to somebody else. Never heard back. But I did what I could on my own. My frustration in the last meeting is the inconsistency of how we plan. So I am open to changing my perspective on how we apply this. But the consistency to me is key, not for our decision making alone, but so people know why we're doing what we're doing and have some sort of sense of fairness. They understand the framework we're operating with, then there won't be as much frustration. I have these here, let me pass these up real quick.
So what I'm thinking is, at what point do we not come to the commission for approval of these things as opposed to just having a staff decision? How many of those do you approve on a normal without coming here?
I had 1 last year. I've had 2 this year.
That didn't come to the commission?
Correct. And then we've had a couple come to the commission. So currently I'm only taking ones that are visible from the street to you guys. And I think that's where we're hoping to get some clarification. The other thing is that something we could change with our Article 7 update when we're getting there is if you guys don't want to see solar panels, we can rewrite the code to have different tiers of when they're approved, but you wouldn't have to even have them come to you. But under our current framework, we do.
A lot of work on this.
I just did a lot of printing.
Yeah.
So we are not the only ones struggling with this. It has gone far enough that there has been direction from the Biden administration to, at this point, the Energy Secretary has directed for there to be sort of complete removal to boundaries on where solar panels can go, regardless of the controversy in historic districts. So I have, if you look at this packet here, they have a framework of recommendations, starting with how they prioritize the decision making. They do not illustrate. This is the illustrated guide for the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines. They don't spell out as far as some of these primary facades that we're dealing with, and these pictures don't really even show a secondary facade or secondary elevation installations. But there's a decent framework here on how they recommend and what they don't recommend. There is one technical service bulletin or technical bulletin on the back page of that packet. And they said, I can find it here, that they are attempting with this bulletin to dispel the gray area between obvious installations that can't be seen at all and should be recommended and installations that should. But this bulletin from the Secretary of the Interior does not cover the gray area at all. The illustrations they show are an egregious example that should never go, and then some panels that can't be seen at all. So I don't know how that addresses the gray area. So if we go back to the Secretary's bulletin on how the standards should be applied. If you look at this packet that is using the standards and guidelines for preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and construction. I've highlighted to me some of the bullet points, and it is the standards are, and we discussed this before in other regards, we apply taking into consideration economic and technical feasibility of each project. The Secretary of Interior's standards for the treatment of historic properties, in particular the standards of rehabilitation, which is what we're going to deal with here, are intended as a general guidance for work on all historic properties, are widely used and have been adopted by federal, state, and local levels. The guidelines are intended as an aid to assist in applying the standards to all types of historic buildings. They are not meant to give a specific advice or address exceptions or unusual conditions. The guidelines are advisory, not regulatory. And the guidelines are intended to promote responsible preservation practices that help protect nations' irreplaceable cultural resources. For example, they cannot, in and of themselves, be used to make essential decisions about which features of the historic building should be saved and which should be changed. So what this says to me is that we have discretion, and that discretion is why some of the solar applications come to us and some do not. In addition to that, the NAPC, which I think some of us are members of, has a packet that I passed out explaining their best case recommendations. And we have a note here. Primary elevations, which is, I think, mainly when we see, we're just dealing with primary elevations when it comes before us. For most properties, locating solar panels on primary sun is the least desirable option because it will have the greatest adverse effect on the property's character, defining features. All other options should be thoroughly explored. But that having been said, they go on to detail ways in which you would apply the guidelines when you're allowing the solar panels to be run on the primary elevation. So for me, it seems very cut and dry that there's not a hard, fast rule that we are legally bound to follow. In fact, not only that, but the Secretary of the Interior guidelines, again, they are advisory, they are not regulatory, and the only time in which they have to be strictly followed is when there are tax credits or when there is actual cultural side. Other than that, they are again advisory.
I have to take their advice.
Sure. But doesn't mean we're bound.
So still a discretionary on all of it. The one thing that, like the California house, well, yeah, 9th California, their roof is black. And their solar panels are the same color and they're not shiny. So it looks like the roof. So that would be a good indication as to that should be allowed. But we don't hear from the solar companies or what it looks like prior to it to make a decision.
Yeah, some applications are definitely better than others. There's no doubt about that. I don't think we've approved anything that wasn't on the same pitch as the roof. And I know some of the things that I've been very interested in is a low profile mount and where will the service be? I think the service is something that's not a barrier to installing solar. That can be moved around and it can always be in. It can always be on the back side of the structure. It can always be somewhere it's not going to be inside. So there are ways in which we need to definitely make sure we're doing everything we can. But you know, there's houses like I think 7th Street that turned into a 2-meeting continuance. There was some reduction in the size of the panels and the amount of power that they're able to generate is diminished from what the original application was. And I don't know that we made any appreciable difference. Shrinking the panels a small amount on that roof is not making them any less visible than they are.
Yeah. And even the one over here on by the Presbyterian church over here, that is the parking lot is,
Oh, yes.
yes, that one. They were so hodgepodge when they put them up that one doesn't look the best. But I don't think that was the design that was presented to us was like that. I don't remember.
I think it was, but they had a rationalization, or they had an excuse, I should say. The structure of the roof was not very strong. So even reinforcing it, I believe they did some reinforcements, they couldn't group the panels in a closer area. They had to distribute the weight. And I think they ended up putting them on the military side of that house in clumps. And I agree with you. I thought that this was one of the uglier installations, but it went through in the meeting relatively easy. And then there are other applications. So it's going to be much more difficult, even though, again, it's because it's an opinion thing. The installations are much less intrusive.
It's new, and it was new. Now it's not. And they changed the product. I mean, now you can get clear glass that does solar. It produces electricity off of glass. So, I mean, things are changing rapidly, and I think as a group and as a city, they need to start allowing things to happen, even in the historic district, but not the ugly things. I mean,
But that's all a matter of
yeah,
perception.
And
well, and how they design it too.
And in my dream, the adoption of this technology is going to, well, think about the BlackBerry. Well, it spawned the iPhone, which spawned smartphones that we know it. Blackberries aren't that great. But people had to buy those first, and there had to be some public buy-in for that market to become a thing. And then we got so much better. I'm hoping that eventually we get to the promise of like the Tesla shingles, the solar shingles.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will be a promise that is fulfilled. It's not really there yet. The efficiency isn't quite there yet. They're not. They're fragile, they're problematic, there's too many connections. There's a lot of issues there. But will we get there someday? I hope so. But we're gonna have to start adopting the technology first. We gotta move into it. And we got a crisis on our hands. All of this is gonna be academic if we go much further with climate change.
The town runs.
Somebody had public testimony at one point. I think they were opposing a solar installation, but they said, oh, you know, we just lost the whole pioneer town. Not the Dallas, but the Northwest. We lost the whole town to a fire. So, literally, the planet's burning. We have to start adopting this technologies. And do I think we need to improve, like there's a picture in a couple of these packets where they have added a whole pillar to a mid-century modern house and then applied panels to that. But no, we don't want that sort of thing to happen. That's egregious. But can we be more consistent on allowing low profile, dark, pitch matching installations? I think we should. I think we're almost obligated.
Well, and it also depends on the company that produces them as to what you're getting.
Sure.
That's part of the issue is the companies never present. But like mine, they were gonna come to the commission and talk about it, but they didn't have to.
So we have some discretion when I take in applications to deeming them complete. If you don't feel that you get enough information from the solar companies about aesthetically what it's gonna look like, kind of that installation material, I can start being more consistent and asking for their the installation booklets and kind of those handouts they produce that show the product. Like I can start making that a requirement for solar, if that's something we need to see in order to truly evaluate these proposals.
I think some of the information we definitely like to see is where's the service? What color are these panels? Is it gonna match the pitch and physical profile?
And color.
Yeah. And color. I mean, the biggest part is the black roof with the black panels was perfect. But how many do we have like that? And you gotta remember the roofs were not like they are now, even on the old houses.
Yeah.
So, you know, asphalt shingles weren't there.
Yeah. The cement thing is sort of like we're talking about these panels going on roofs that are almost completely across the district, not original and not even close to approximating what was there.
Okay, so I've got service location, pitch, and color. Anything else? Profile?
Yeah.
Most weren't really thin now.
I guess instead of asking the profile, can you give us the detail of the mounting so we know what the height will be off the existing roof surface?
Okay, yeah, I can start consistently asking for that as a completeness issue, which means that I would deal with them before they even get on the schedule to see you guys.
And right now you just routinely approve anything that is not visible from the street.
Correct. That's one of the free options for being approved at the staff level. So if they can certify they're not visible from the street, I don't have to run it to you guys.
I think we should keep doing
I would also say that in the booklet, one of the things they have are the ground mounted solar panels. I think those are the least likely to ever be seen around here because yards are too small for you to really get good clearance for actual solar production. So, I mean, it's there, we used to see them in the county, but I haven't seen anybody come through with them here.
And I think I can speak for, well, I'm not gonna speak for us. You guys kind of not interested in any of this ground mounted installations. I think that,
Not next
for the
door,
district,
no.
that would be, yeah.
That's more a reference to like backyard solar panels. I mean, they would be a good scenario, but I think that with the city and how lots are laid out and, 6-foot tall fences, there's very few people that could actually benefit from rear yard solar panels. Maybe North Albany, but then I'm not reviewing them.
And most of the time, I think when we are seeing these, because they're a primary facade issue, that's because the back facade's no good. There's not enough light to justify panels. So a ground mounted backyard installation isn't kind of play there.
If you're worried about consistency, I will say that I would consistently vote against anything that is visible on primary. If it's visible from the side street and on secondary facade, that's more acceptable, depending upon all of the things you just said about thickness, color, and all that stuff. But
So even, give an example, last thing we looked at, I don't know if we've found specific cases, so let's give a hypothetical instead. A situation in which, because of structure, surrounding buildings and vegetation, there is no other viable option for solar. That's still an unstarted one.
if it's primary facade. It's because, again, you're talking about consistency. Consistency.
You did consistently.
I'm not gonna vote to put a panel on a primary facade regardless. I'm gonna be consistent with that.
Based on your interpretation. Okay.
I would caution just to remember that we have to look at every land use case as a unique circumstance. So based on the totality of the evidence, you still have to weigh everything. If you always come to the same conclusion, that's fine, but we have to treat them all as unique projects based on the facts of the criteria provided. So that's my only caution, is I just want to make sure that you can defend your decision based on the facts in the case. That's all that matters.
Well, shall we move on to business from the staff?
We already got that.
Yeah. They did that early.
We have business related question. If you have questions.
Any other
for staff.
business? I don't want to skip that number 7. All right then, well, that said, next meeting date is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. And we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:33 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Bill.